In this time of uncertainty and chaos,
when fear and anger
ripple through our world,
when rhetoric blusters about
and words are used as weapons, let us seek another way,
a way that breaks down barriers
and widens horizons,
so that we might see one another
not as enemies,
but as kin,
bound by a shared humanity and an interdependence that will not let us go.
As our nation clenches its fists and tightens its shoulders,
let us unclench and breathe together.
Breathing in love.
Breathing out peace.
Let us reach out to our better selves,
that we may love more and hate less,
and recognize the spark of the divine
inside all of us,
even those we are not quite sure about.
Let us build bridges between our divisions.
Let us seek a common holy ground
For one and all. Let us renew our hope for a better world. Let us worship together. I invite you now to join me in singing our opening hymn. It's Building Bridges. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. It's number 1023 in the teal hymnal. But it's also a pretty simple song. The words will be up on the screen in a moment. And we'll sing it through a couple times together, but part of the beauty and the magic of this song is actually the different parts coming together. So we're going to sing it as a round. I think the song is beautiful on its own, but it was written as a round. It's intended to be sung as a round, and there's something about those words not quite matching each other and yet still sounding beautiful together. That seems fitted for our service this morning. And our words are still not on the screen. There we go. All right. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Again together. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Okay, this half. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices, with all of our voices. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Sweet harmony. I invite you to remain risen as we light our chalice and then say our affirmation. I invite you to join me in saying our chalice lighting the words which are in your order of service. we light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of service. And now, if you'll join me in saying our affirmation, which we say both in English and in Spanish, as a reminder of the many languages of the heart, the many languages of the soul. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls may grow into harmony with the divine. This do we covenant with one another. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Habitar juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con libertad y servir a la humanidad juntos, con el fin de que todas las almas pueden crecer en armonía con lo divino. Esto es lo que conectamos unos con otros.
In recognition of the Tamian and Muwekma Ohlone indigenous peoples, were the first humans to inhabit and sustain this land thousands of years before settler colonizers arrived. We honor the resilience of these indigenous peoples in the face of devastating harms. And we lift up the resilience of the neighboring tribe to the south, the Amamutsun tribal band, with whom we are working to preserve their sacred land of Hursta and to ensure that their culture continues to thrive. So welcome to the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. Whoever you are, whatever you believe, however you're feeling today, you're welcome here. We are seekers looking for ways to live out this congregation's mission of making love visible by deepening our spirits, working for justice, and creating one sacred family. My name is Rick Merritt, and it's my pleasure to be a worship associate today. I'm a 68-year-old straight white male, and politically, I'm light blue, a little bit left of center. Normally, I wouldn't share my political leanings, but our service today is about having compassion for those we disagree with, particularly across political differences. And what with political differences these days, I often feel like I'm struggling to find my calm, balanced, centered place amid a storm of voices. That's one reason why I'm super excited to welcome our guest speaker today. Lenny Greenberg is a member of Braver Angels, a group founded in 2016 that brings together people who identify as politically blue and red in ways that promote respectful conversations. Last weekend, when I wasn't going to hardly strictly bluegrass, I attended my first Braver Angels event in San Francisco. It was a diverse group there that discussed issues around affordable housing and homelessness. I really appreciated the group's process of encouraging people to share their opinions and experiences with deep authenticity and to listen to others with an open, curious mind. Thanks for being with us today, Lenny. I look forward to hearing more about you and about Braver Angels. Now, let's welcome those on Zoom and let them welcome us. There's our Zoomers welcoming us. Hello there. Nice crowd on Zoom. You're looking great. And let's welcome them. We have a camera that's right up there. And as you see it tilt and pan around, you can wave into the camera to make eye contact, which is kind of weird looking in a camera to make eye contact with somebody that you think is over there, but they're really, you know, at home somewhere. And we're panning around. The miracles of modern technology. We're going digital. Have you seen our new screen over here? Isn't that beautiful? More to come. Thank you, Zoomers, for being here. If you're new here, please stop by the welcome table after the service in Hattie Porter Hall to talk to one of the members of our hospitality team and learn more about this church and about Unitarian Universalism. I hope all of you can stay for conversation and refreshments in the social hour after the service. And may you all find something in the service today that nourishes your mind and lifts up your spirit.
A few announcements. So I'm actually going to draw your attention to things that are happening a couple weeks out from now, because I know sometimes it's helpful to get people's attention on them before their calendars fill up. And we have several things coming up 2 weeks from now. On Friday, October 24th, we're having the Noon Arts and Lectures series, which hosts a series of, arts and lectures related events, mostly in downtown San Jose, is coming here, and we're going to have a program about the reconstruction and the restoration of our space that myself and Sue Pellmulder, our outgoing building committee co-chair, will be doing, as well as Jim Salata, who was with Garden City, who was the lead contractor. So I think that should be a great event if you want to learn a little bit more about that project. And then on that Saturday, we have two different events. So there's a community gardening event where we are, this is a newer project where we move around to different locations to work on garden projects in order to build community and support our environment. So this one is actually going to be at my house. I got permission from my landlord to kill off my front yard lawn to plant a native garden. So we're going to be sheet mulching that, and then a few weeks after that, we're going to be going to Indra Frank's house to replace her. We did some sheet mulching at her place back in June, and now we're going to be planting those native plants on November 9th. So check those out. And then later that afternoon/evening on Saturday the 25th, we're having a pumpkin carving and pizza party because it's scientifically known that it's scientifically proven that carving pumpkins is more fun in community, especially when there's pizza. So RSVP for that if you'd like to come. And then one more announcement. I want to invite up Susan Osborne to tell us about our service auction, which is coming up.
Good morning. So nice to see so many familiar faces. So our auction is almost here. You've been seeing this a lot. We're calling it the Fabulous Fall Fundraiser, formerly known as the Service Auction. Jan Theis Guffey is our leader, And so far, we have Mary Martin, Betty Chase, and even Reverend Matthew helping us to pull this together. And if you'd like to join, you're more than welcome. This is one of, if not the biggest fundraiser for our church, for our beloved church. And not only does, of course, it raise money, it is a terrific community builder and provides lots of opportunity for fun. So the gala will be held on Saturday, November 15th from 2 to 5. Lots of fun activities to do and finger foods to keep your shopping energy up. But in the meantime, I know you've been seeing this a lot, you've got some to-dos to do for each and every one of you. First off, save the date for the actual gala, and then access the website. We're running the auction on a new and better platform called Octria, and you can access from your browser, or you can download the app, or both, actually. And so then third, register on that website. We need your current email, and your phone helps too. And you can buy your ticket. This year, we're going to charge $10 to come to the gala and enjoy that food and each other. And you can buy a ticket for a guest if you want. But most important for right now is, if you haven't already, put your thinking cap on and tell us what you would like to donate to the auction catalog. There are some ideas on the website that I stole from some other auction site. And if you're stumped, and we can come up with other ideas. We've got a great start and an assortment of items in the catalog. We're still accepting fabulous ideas for parties, excursions, services, your talents. So don't be left out. So come over and visit the fabulous fall fundraiser auction table after church, and I'll be there with my iPad, and you can scroll through the items that have already been added. Just understand it's still a work in progress, so some things are not all fleshed out. So those are your to-dos. And you know, my motto has always been, what's worth doing is worth overdoing. So I made little cards for you to take home in case you haven't seen that enough. So I'll see you at the table. Thanks so much.
So for those who are young or young at heart, I invite you to join me down here in the labyrinth for our story for all ages this morning. While people are coming down, I'll just note that one of the things I'm planning on offering for the service auction is a tacos and trivia night. And debating on some other things as well. So there's get creative. There's lots of fun things. I think events together are not only great ways to raise money, but to build community. So, good morning. Our story this morning is about sandwiches. So who has what kind of sandwiches do you like? Ham and cheese, okay. Tuna, peanut butter and jelly? Peanut butter? Peanut butter and jelly, okay, so we got some different things. Just a cheese sandwich, sure. There's lots of tomato sandwich, yeah, tomatoes with some fresh mayo, oof, that's good. All right. So our story, like I said, is about some people who have sandwiches, and sandwiches they pretty like very much. It's called The Sandwich Swap by Queen Rania Abdullah and Kelly DiPucchio, illustrated by Tricia, Tusa. It all began with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it ended with a hummus sandwich. Salma and Lily were best friends at school. They drew pictures together. They played on the swings together. They jumped rope together, and they ate their lunches together. But what they ate was a little different. Lily ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day for lunch. Salma ate a hummus and pita sandwich every day for lunch. And although Lily never once said it out loud, she thought Salma's sandwich looked weird and yucky. She felt terrible that her friend had to eat that icky chickpea paste every day. Ew, yuck. And although Salma never said it out loud, she thought Lily's sandwich looked strange and gross. She felt just awful that her friend had to eat that gooey peanut paste every day. Ew, gross. Then one day, Lily just couldn't hold back those pesky thoughts any longer. "Your sandwich looks kind of yucky," she blurted out. "What did you say?" Salma asked, thinking she must have misunderstood her friend. "I said your sandwich looks yucky." Salma frowned. She looked down at the thin, soft bread and thought of her beautiful, smiling mother as she carefully cut Salma's sandwich into 2 neat halves that morning. Her hurt feelings turned mad. "Yeah, well, your sandwich looks gross and smells bad too," Salma snapped back. Lily looked surprised. She sniffed the thick, squishy bread, and she thought of her dad in his silly apron, whistling as he cut Lily's sandwich in 2 perfect triangles that morning. Lily scowled. It doesn't smell bad. Does too. Ew, yuck, ew, gross." That afternoon, the 2 friends did not draw pictures together. They did not swing together, and they did not jump rope together either. The next day, Salma ate her lunch at one table, and Lily ate her lunch at another. Meanwhile, the peanut butter versus hummus story had spread, and everyone began choosing sides. Each side had something not so nice to say to the other. Peanut butter breath. I think the slide is one ahead of me. Peanut butter breath. Jelly heads. Garlic breath. Chickpea brains. Pretty soon, the rude insults had nothing to do at all with peanut butter or hummus. "You're weird. You're stupid. You look funny. You dress dumb." And then it happened. Somebody yelled, "Food fight!" Peanut butter and hummus sandwiches and other lunch favorites began flying back and forth between both sides of the lunchroom. They stuck to the walls. They stuck to the ceilings. They stuck to the lunch lady. When the sandwiches, it's very distressing when people don't get along, isn't it? Yes. When the sandwiches were all gone, pudding cups and applesauce and carrot sticks took flight. Salma and Lily looked at one another from across the rowdy, splattered room. They both felt ashamed by what they saw. They both felt really ashamed when the principal called them into her office after they had helped clean up the mess. The following day, Salma set her lunch down across from Lily's, and the 2 girls nibbled their sandwiches in silence. Finally, Lily got up the courage to speak. "Would you like to try a bite of my peanut butter and jelly?" Salma grinned. "Sure, why not? Would you like to try my hummus and pita?" Lily laughed. "I'd like that. On the count of 3? Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yum. Hey, this is delicious. And this is heavenly. The girls giggled and hugged and traded sandwiches. After lunch, Salma and Lily met with the principal again. This time, they were there to suggest a very special event for the whole school. And that's how it all began, with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and ended with a hummus and pita sandwich. The end. Now, sometimes we can have disagreements about things that maybe we're not familiar with, and we don't think we may not like something, and so we think, ew, that's gross, but maybe we've never tried it. Sometimes we genuinely don't like the same things, or we have differing opinions about things that we're not necessarily ever going to agree on. And that doesn't mean, though, that we have to let those divisions divide us entirely, turn us into enemies who can't see the many differences that we do have. As Unitarian Universalists, we value pluralism, which is the idea that we are stronger together, built up of a community of people, of diverse people, all with different perspectives and experiences and opinions, and that we are stronger for that. And that's what I love about this story, is that it makes space for the diversity and plurality of experiences. And now let's sing our song before our children head off to their religious education classes. The words will be on the screen, and there's some hand motions, which you can join me in doing if you know them, or even if you don't. They're not that hard. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace. Thanks, friends.
I just want to say thank you for that wonderful story, Reverend Matthew. I never imagined having a food fight in the sanctuary before. I hope that's the only one we have, but I sure enjoyed it. And you know, it takes a lot of hummus and peanut butter to fuel the work of a church. So we ask you now to be generous as you support the mission of this church, which is to make love visible, as our ushers take the morning offering.
the work of the church, which is making love visible in all we say and do, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings.
Our reading this morning is from a book called Love Your Enemies: How Decent People Can Save America from the Culture of Contempt. In the book, written in 2019, Arthur C. Brooks recalls a conversation with the Dalai Lama. "Your Holiness," he asked, "what do I do when I feel contempt?" He said, "Practice warm-heartedness." Brooks describes why that's good advice even in the most challenging circumstances. He says, "There's a tendency to revert to the old joke that if you wrestle a pig, you get muddy and the pig likes it. But ignoring voices of hate is a mistake. If we do, they go unchallenged by people of goodwill. And if these views are truly worthy of contempt, remember that the views might be, but no person is. Repudiate their views confidently and concisely with respect." There is a practical, albeit self-interested, reason to avoid contempt, even for those with whom you disagree most strongly. It's horrible for you. Contempt makes you unhappy, unhealthy, and unattractive, even to those who agree with you. Contempt will harm your relationships and wreck your health. It's a dangerous vice, like smoking or drinking too much. American politics is addicted to contempt, Brooks states, noting a pervasive and toxic trait called, actually in scientific literature, motive attribution asymmetry, where both sides believe they're inspired by love and their opponents are fueled by hate. He continues, "Love and warm-heartedness may not change every heart and mind, but they're always worth trying, and they will always make you feel better. They should be your and my default position. People can become not just warriors for their point of view, but healers in their communities. The current model of contemptuous leadership is a losing proposition in the long run. Better, not less disagreement holds the key to greater harmony. So, go find someone with whom you disagree. Listen thoughtfully and treat him or her with respect and love. The rest will flow naturally from there."
Each week in our service, we take time to lift up the joys and sorrows from within our community and in the wider world. This week, I want to lift up, in particular, the people in Israel and Palestine, where a new and tentative peace will hopefully hold. And that we might move towards a better, more just future with peace in the region. While also not forgetting all those who have suffered so dearly over the past 2 years, those who lost their lives or their families' lives on October 7th, whose friends and family were taken hostage, some of whom have come back, some of whom are coming back as bodies. And the people in Gaza, the vast majority of the population, some 90%, who has been displaced from their homes, who are returning to their homes, if you can call a pile of rubble a home, and the some 67,000 people who have died, and the many more whose lives will be permanently impacted by all they have lost in terms of financial security, possessions, as well as their own health from starvation and hunger. Let us hope for a lasting peace, but let it not be a peace that paves over, that requires injustice to just be ignored and paved over, for that is not peace. In a moment, I'm going to sound this singing bowl, and after I do, I invite you to speak into this space with words overlapping other words, or to type in the chat if you're joining us online. Any joys or sorrows, any names or occasions that are on your heart this morning that you would like lifted up into the embrace of this community so that it might be held. For those living with homelessness, including the people outside our doors, Matt and Lori, all that has been shared and all that is too tender yet to share, but which we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We offer these into the embrace of this beloved community. And speaking words into this space may not be enough sometimes. And so if you feel like you need someone to talk to or need something more, you can stop by our pastoral associates table after the service, where you can light a candle or write in our book of joys and sorrows, or talk to our pastoral associate of the week about what is on your heart today. And you can always, throughout the week, reach out to our pastoral associate for the week. Just remember that you are not alone. I invite you to join me now in a spirit of meditation or prayer. Maybe that means finding a comfortable spot, closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Noticing your breath, grounding yourself in this moment. I offer these words from the Reverend D.L. Helfer. Spirit of all that moves us and through us, help us to let love lead. Help us to recognize that polarization can also be understood as passion, passion to build something better that holds all of us at the center. Help us to imagine and to foster a world in which we listen more than we talk, where our priority is to learn as much as teach. A world in which we find ways to connect across chasms of difference, making space for revelation to emerge. Spirit of love, help us turn toward love with the world, with each other, with ourselves, all the same thing at its core. Let us extend grace within our movements and between our movements, less sure, more curious, wondering together what is possible. Spirit of all that is open and hopeful, guide us in building a larger tent, not solely Republican or Democrat, independent or uncommitted. Let us learn too from our ancestors, from generational pain and generational survival, the movement of generations building across difference, something better, larger, more encompassing that can hold us all. Let us be not just flags, potent though they are in declaring our beliefs, and yet impeding our ability to recognize humanity across differences. Spirit of hope, Spirit of all that is yet possible, lead us away from the false separation that the only truth is ours, that anything less is incomplete. Lead us instead into the discomfort of learning from youth, young adults, activists, elders, those we cherish, those we find wanting. Lead us to the love that holds us all and is with us always, the love that can help us through the messy and necessary life-altering work of building movements across beliefs, across difference, for change that can endure. May it be so. Open my heart, open my heart. Sing that with me. Open my heart. you'd like to sing Abre mi corazón, you can sing that as well. Abre mi corazón, abre mi corazón. Open my heart, open my heart, open my heart, open my heart. You can add another language or harmony. Open my heart, open my heart, open my heart, open my heart. Abre mi corazón, abre mi corazón. One more time. Abre mi corazón, abre mi corazón.
Good morning. Put these on, I'm 70. My name is Lenny Greenberg. I'm the Red co-chair of the Silicon Valley Alliance of Braver Angels, and also the Red co-chair and Jewish representative of the Braver Faith Leadership of Braver Angels. I want to thank Rick and Reverend Matthew for making time today for the Braver Angels message. We're the nation's leading cross-partisan volunteer-led movement whose mission is to bridge the partisan divide and strengthen our democracy. I'm a Columbus, Ohio native. I've lived in Cleveland, New York City, and moved to this area 19 years ago. I'm a retired high-tech executive, entrepreneur. I'm a Midwesterner with a New York attitude. I'm married to an Iraqi-Israeli woman born in Baghdad. If I would have known about the story, I would have brought her homemade hummus. It's wonderful. We have 3 adult kids, one in Oakland, one in Scottsdale, and one in New York City. We also have a 7-year-old granddaughter and a grandson due around Thanksgiving. Usually when a Braver Angels request comes from a church, synagogue, or mosque, Braver Faith finds a local member of that faith community to be the ambassador. I volunteered to find one, but Rick thought it was more interesting to hear from a local member who is from a different faith and leans red. Honestly, I was nervous as some political differences might be a distraction. Rick said it would be fine, so I agreed, but I'm still nervous. Living in the Bay Area, my friends are more aligned with the blue members of Braver Angels, similar to the Upper West Side, my neighborhood, east side of Cleveland and my old Columbus neighborhood, predominantly liberal. My friends and I agree on some issues and others not so much. But we aren't debating or trying to change minds. We want just to explain ourselves civilly and learn from each other. We test our biases, understand each other's priorities. We sometimes moderate our thinking, and often we find common ground on which to build. No matter what, we really listen and reflect because we have built personal connections and mutual respect. On a personal note, it's been a very rough 2 years for me, my extended family here and in Israel and in my local community. We have heated disagreements amongst ourselves about the Israel-Hamas war and Israel's political leadership. Through it all, we have hoped and prayed for the release of the kidnapped victims and have had weekly rallies all over the U.S. so they aren't forgotten. We're thankful Very thankful for the hard work that both Biden's and Trump's teams did to bring this conflict to an end and find a path for a regional peace going forward. Last week was Yom Kippur. Jews all over the world confessed our sins communally and asked for forgiveness. We forgive others so that they are not punished for something they may not have, that may have harmed us intentionally or unintentionally. We ask forgiveness if we hurt someone by word or deed. We promise to perform tikkun olam, repairing the world through charity, acts of kindness, and mitzvot, our religious obligations. As part of that, I recommitted my time and energy to restoring civility to our social discourse. That starts with me, depolarizing myself. Braver Angels has a workshop on that, in which is often the first one we take. None of us can depolarize the community, state, and country if we are polarizers, and depolarization is desperately needed now. Now, politicians have always used divisiveness to win elections. Negative campaigning gets attention and money. However, we now have platforms whose business model is to incite rage. These companies learned that tearing us apart keeps engagement up so they can keep trying to sell us stuff. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube pay influencers based on engagement. The most successful ones financially are often fire starters. Add to that the bots, the trolls, and the foreign actors who want to divide us. If this was a food or a drug causing this, we'd all fight to ban this. I'm not advocating that. I just don't want to be controlled by an algorithm. I want to use the tools to spread unity. So I ask you to join us. Try out one of our many online events. They're all free. Learn about our proven workshops where we have structured conversations designed to help us get back that muscle of tolerance, curiosity about differing opinions, trying to learn and understand rather than score debating points. A skill we practice for disagreeing better is called LAP. Listen, acknowledge, pivot, perspective. Listening deeper is crucial. We have some great events coming up, including a live event at Cupertino City Hall the first weekend of November. I'm happy to share details after the service. Last, we Jews are in the middle of the final high holiday, Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. Look it up in Leviticus 23, verses 34 to 43. We are commanded to live and eat in a temporary, fragile hut. The roof is made of natural materials like palm leaves, corn stalks, or bamboo. We have to see the stars when we look up through the roof. The sukkah is fragile, subject to nature and outside forces. We build and decorate the sukkah just as Christians put up and decorate a Christmas tree. The sukkah is symbolic of our world. Our peace and protection is fragile. The forces trying to tear us apart are a danger to our safety. We can change that through believing it is possible, so please join us. If you have any questions or interest in what we do, come see me or Stephen Teeter, our Purple co-chair of our alliance, afterwards in the social hour. Thank you for the time.
What if nobody was wrong and no one was right? What if we all just agreed to no longer fight? Find a way, find a way, find a way to listen deeper and open your heart. Find a way, find a way, find a way to listen deeper and open your heart. What if nobody was wrong and no one was right? What if we all just agreed to no longer fight? Find a way, find a way, find a way to listen deeper and open your heart. Find a way, find a way, find a way to listen deeper and open your heart. Find a way, 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 find a way.
Thank you so much, Lenny, for coming and sharing your message and the work that you do. Appreciate it. And thank you for the beautiful music. Ever since Rick first came to me with the idea of a service about how to communicate with love with people we disagree with politically, I've been arguing about the topic, sometimes with Rick, but a lot with myself. I've been torn in the sermon between wanting to do two things. On the one hand, I want to say that yes, civility and coming to people whom we disagree with, even deeply, with love and not with hate, is incredibly important. That our Unitarian and Universalist values call us to see the inherent dignity of every person, to embrace pluralism, and most importantly of all, to put at the center. And as our civic body becomes increasingly polarized, it is up to us to do our own small part to turn down the heat, or at least not keep adding to it. And on the other hand, the question I've been asking is, what is the place of civility or loving, open-hearted conversations when others, including the President of the United States, have declared you the enemy, stripped you of your rights? Should we be civil and respectful when all three branches of our government are marching our democracy towards totalitarianism? So I've been grappling with this topic. And what I was thinking is that this would be a service because I really do believe in the importance of disagreeing with love, truly, deeply. Any caveats aside, and I'll get to more of them, that disagreeing with love is important. Maybe caveat isn't the right word. Nuance. And so I was thinking this would be a service where a blue guest from Braver Angels would talk about what they had learned about connecting with people who were politically red and impart us, who are a generally bluish crowd, some wisdom about how to have those conversations and depolarizing ourselves. And when Rick told me the speaker he got from Braver Angels was a red and not a blue like I'd been envisioning, I was like, what? But I want to be able to say what I want to say without fear of offending our guest. And I don't think I'm going to offend you, but... And then I thought, well, this is the work. And I was truly appreciative of the conversations that Rick and Lenny and I had in talking about this service, about the way we were able to model open-hearted sharing and listening, although I think Lenny was slightly more skilled than I. Age. And we were able to find common ground in our frustration that President Trump was leaning into divisiveness and continuing to turn up the heat in an already politically volatile situation. But I was still going back and forth. And then Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And the need to lower the temperature felt even more pressing. That no life should be taken over political violence, no matter how reprehensible one might find the beliefs or actions of that individual. And there was a lot of blustery talk before and still after. And this again is where I get into these caveats, nuances, complexities, because it seemed to me, and maybe this was from my religious Unitarian Universalist liberalish bubble, that people generally on the left, certainly leaders, were calling for calm, were denouncing political violence. And what I heard about on the right were that people were blaming it all on the hateful rhetoric of woke Antifa extremists before anyone even knew who the shooter was, and declaring that more or less war was coming. This is war. I don't remember which high-level Trump advisor it was who posted that within hours. And although Kirk's wife, Erica, publicly forgave Kirk's killer at his memorial, saying it was the Christian thing to do, a few minutes later, Trump said, I could never be as conciliatory as she was, or Kirk. I hate my opponents, and I don't want what's best for them, which was met with laughter and cheers from the audience. Maybe not a majority of the audience, but it was notable. Yet it's also true that when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, a lot of people who were centrist and right-wing were posting reminders to squeeze your kids and hug your loved ones extra tight. Something deeply human we can all relate to. But I didn't actually see any of those messages in my feed. I only know about it because of reading an article reflecting on the time after that. And I'm sure people on the right didn't see all the pieces that I saw condemning political violence, and folks thoughtfully grappling with complicated feelings about the death of someone who said incendiary, hateful, and false things about Black people and immigrants and trans and non-binary folks, and who was being lionized as someone who practiced politics the right way. I guess because he only harmed people with words and not with weapons. Anyway. Instead, the people on the right only saw the most callous responses to his death, or cherry-picked quotes that proved that the left was inciting people to violence. So part of it, as Lenny talked about it, is our social media, which contributes to this sense of our bubbles. And yes, we can, and I can also say that yes, there is polarization on both sides, but I can also note that the majority of political violence in this country over the past several decades has been caused by people on the right, much more so than people on the left. On the other hand, violence on the left is increasing. The year isn't over yet, but at this point, violence on the political left has for the first time exceeded, just barely, violence on the political right. The year isn't over yet, but it's hard to say. On the other hand, things that don't get included in that are official acts of what I would call terror committed by our government against members of the population. Those aren't set aside as acts of political violence. But I think it's incredibly important to not feel, oh yeah, we're the more calm-headed people, because the polarization is happening all around, and it's up to all of us to turn down the temperature. To love our enemies, to maybe not even use the word enemies, to love those people who we find on the opposite side of a political issue, or think that we find ourselves on the opposite side of a political issue, because so much nuance gets lost in the heightened emotions in our media, social and otherwise. And note that most people are good people. The vast majority of people are good people, that even the people who do things that may be harming, causing harm to folks that I love and care about, are not necessarily doing it from a place of hate. Some of them are, but most are not. So much of it comes down to a different set of values. Jonathan Haidt published a paper exploring 5 different sets of values that we align ourselves with to one degree or another, how important we consider them. The idea of harm and care, whether we address harm and care for folks, or fairness and reciprocity, a sense of being a part of an in-group or a sense of loyalty, authority and respect, and purity and sanctity. And the reality is that we all, to some degree or another, value those, use those as moral choices, and we value those, but the people on the left tend to value harm and care caring for those who've been hurt or marginalized, fairness and reciprocity, much more than people on the right. It's not to say that people on the right don't care about them. They actually generally tend to care about all 5 of them in roughly equal measure, more or less. Whereas people on the left tend to care, again, more about care and fairness, which, as people whose values call for equity and justice, it's easy to see where the vast majority of us align, but that doesn't mean that those are the only values. And so it's helpful if we understand that people are coming from a variety of different places and upholding the values that are important to them, that were taught to them. And so doing things like that, but also just listening and having a conversation can help us connect with people who we may think we disagree with and find that we may actually have some common ground. I think that's what's beautiful about what Braver Angels does, is to help find that common ground, or at least to understand where the other person is coming from, to have conversations that aren't about scoring points and convincing the other person that they're wrong, but understanding. Because, of course, you can't actually convince someone if they're wrong if you don't understand them. That was kind of a joke. But it's true. I mean, thinking about something where I would argue there is a right and a wrong, which is facts. If you happen to know the facts that are generally recognized as true, like global warming is real, but if you come from a place of, I'm here to prove my point, and not actually have a conversation, you're never actually going to be able to change someone's mind or have them rethink that thing that they heard on the news that may not actually be real. And it's important to have these conversations, and many of us can have these conversations. This past summer, I went on a road trip to see family. My family and my wife's family in St. Louis and in Topeka and Lincoln, Nebraska. And sometimes we didn't talk about politics. Occasionally it came up. There's a fair amount of diversity, and I have relatives. I have an uncle who who's, I would say, conservative, leaning red maybe, who I can have respectful conversations and disagree with love and actually try to have some understanding and find points of common ground and points of difference. And I value that. His son, my cousin, on the other hand, I can't, because what he seems to post on social media is all about owning the libs. And so for me, I don't have the capacity to have that conversation. But I think it's important, and that to try to have those conversations. Another caveat or nuance. I've noticed that people on the left are expected to understand the forgotten middle America that's been left behind. And I remember how many people rushed out to read Hillbilly Elegy by some guy named J.D. Vance as a way to understand the forgotten America after the 2016 election. And it's true that those of us who live in dense, thriving urban areas should pay attention to the way that vulture capitalism has abandoned rural areas and rust belts. But don't you need to see the way that people struggle here, in the 5th most expensive county in the world? The people living paycheck to paycheck, the people sleeping in the park across the street, the people who don't have health insurance because it was taken away from them or is about to be, losing access to food stamps to put food on their table, people who do not have Social Security, who are worried that their parents will be deported, that their families will be torn apart, the way institutional racism has shaped this landscape. After Mitt Romney lost the 2012 election, the Republican, the RNC, the Republican National Committee, said they did a post-mortem on what had happened in that election and gave suggestions for what they would do afterwards. And one of the main conclusions is that they needed to do better outreach to the Latino community and to shy away from immigration policy because it was too divisive. And then they elected a man who kicked off his campaign by saying when Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. And now we see that same sentiment used to round up people who have brown skin or speak with an accent or work at a car wash regardless of their immigration status. And that's how you get a military-style immigration raid on an apartment building in Chicago where some 300 masked federal agents with assault weapons raided a 5-story apartment building with some rappelling out of Black Hawk helicopters onto the roof at 1 a.m. in the morning and then knocking down numerous doors, throwing flashbang grenades into the halls and rooms, zip-tying and detaining all of the buildings. Not zip-tying all of them, but detaining all of the building's barely clothed residents, including numerous citizens and several children who were zip-tied for hours. And then posted a video of the raid on X. And you've got a president posting, Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War, alongside a picture titled, Chipocalypse Now. And his average supporter seems fine with that. So part of me wants to say, come on. Our country is marching towards dictatorship, and you want me to engage in respectful conversation? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Depolarizing ourselves is important. Ramping up the rhetoric is not the thing that's going to make this country a better place. But here's the thing, is that we can actually vociferously advocate for UU values like justice and equity and pluralism and interdependence while coming from a place of love. Indeed, love is at the center of our Unitarian Universalist values. And so we can advocate for those things from a place of love. We can have a respectful conversation with a climate denier and then go lobby your state representative to vote for the Make Polluters Pay bill. You can go march next week in the No Kings parade and then sit down and have a respectful conversation with that uncle who you don't like to talk politics with. Just because we engage in respectful conversation and loving conversation doesn't mean we have to set aside our values. I think our values call us to do both. To reach out and try to make a connection, to understand people coming from a different perspective. That's at the root of so much of what we're facing today, is that distrust in not just institutions, but in each other that makes so much of what has made America work, the parts of it that have worked better than others, is that social trust. I want to add another caveat, nuance. I think that this work looks different depending on what social location you come from. It's easy for people in positions of privilege to overlook their privilege, the way that luck has shaped their lives, and not be curious about the experience of others who have maybe had a harder go of things. When you're part of the dominant culture, it seems like the default, and everyone else is doing something not normal that you don't understand or aren't interested in understanding. But when you live on the margins, you already have to pay attention to the dominant culture. You can't help but know something about Taylor Swift and Friends and Tom Hanks and Christmas and hot dogs and apple pie. Now, for those part of the dominant culture, maybe you watched Will and Grace or even RuPaul's Drag Race and listened to Beyonce or Bad Bunny before you heard that he was performing the Super Bowl halftime show. He's great, by the way. And you love samosas and pad thai. But you get to choose how and when you interact. You can choose to come to next week's Diwali service and experience a religious tradition that many of us, most of us in this church, weren't raised with. You get to choose when to interact. I went to a Vietnamese supermarket last week, something I don't do often, and I didn't see another white person in there for the whole 40 minutes I was shopping. And I was very aware of my whiteness, just like I was aware of my queerness when I walked into our neighbor's house on Thursday to pick up my kid, and the men gathered around the TV said, "Hey, you're just in time for the game. Want a beer?" But I'm in situations where I'm reminded of my queerness far more often than of my whiteness. And there's a pressure to fit in, to not stand out. Sometimes it's something we do not to cause ripples. Sometimes it's something we do to keep ourselves safe, to not be too flamboyant or too femme. Or maybe it's to not be too butch, not be too loud, not be too black, too native, to speak with the proper vernacular and not have a thick accent. To change my name, to shorten it to something you can pronounce, to straighten my hair, to not bring my pungent food, the one my mother used to cook and which is a part of my soul, to work for fear of being marginalized as one of those people. It's exhausting having to act or look or talk a certain way just in order to be seen as human and worthy of respect. I think that's an important value as a Unitarian Universalist, to honor that, to honor those different experiences, to push outside of that desire for in-group cohesion. All of which is to say that it's on folks with privileged identities to engage with folks from other backgrounds, to hear where they are coming from. And conversely, it's not necessary for all folks with marginalized identities to reach out and build bridges with people who see you as less than or other. That's not to say that some people who have marginalized identities don't find that that is their place to be a bridge builder. But one can't expect someone who has to deal with repression because of their identity day in and day out to have one more respectful conversation where someone may be even asking well-meaning but insensitive questions. Feels like too much. And so, in this scary world we live in, where so much seems under threat, where sometimes our own identities seem under threat, where our friends and loved ones' safety and well-being are under threat, of course, we have to organize and stand up for justice and equity and what is right and making the world a better place. But we also have to connect with people across difference with love. And honestly, I think if we can do that, making the world a more just place becomes easier. May it be so. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn. Though I may speak with bravest fire, it's number 34 in your gray hymnal. It's a song that uses slightly oldish language. It's a song about we can feel we have the right things about working for justice, but if we don't have love at the center, those words, those great words of justice are meaningless. Let's sing together. Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire and have not love, my words are vain as sounding brass and hopeless game. Though I may give all I possess and striving soar, my love profess, but not be given by love within. The prophets soon turn strangely thin. Calm Spirit, come, our hearts control, our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are free. As you feel comfortable, I invite you to reach out and take a hand or bump elbows or touch a shoulder, make a connection with someone nearby you. To those of you joining us on Zoom, we invite you to send your energy to us and to each other as we send ours back to you. These words are adapted from Julianne Lepp. May we be reminded that all beings are whole, sacred, and worthy. Let our hearts be welcoming of multiple truths, not holding hard or fast to closed-mindedness or judgmental thinking. What can we learn from each other in the richness of our differences? May the heart of compassion help us recognize the sacred in each other and bridge differences in these challenging times. May each of us be held in relationship, accountability, and the power of beloved community. Amen and blessed be.
Hiya.